Welcome in, and I'll get straight into it since I know this is going to be a very long video. This is how and why supports aren't pandered to in the game, and how it's actually the opposite. Now, let me go through some of the things people say, and then I'll debunk those and go straight into the stats. Some people say all nerfs and buffs aren't equal, which I agree with, but the same goes for every single role, and over time it equals out. And one of the reasons people list off of why they're pandered to is because when the Luna Snow outfit came out, they had glasses, people didn't like that. The next patch, okay, glasses, you can put them off and toggle them on and off now. Okay, people said, oh, that's pandering to support players. Okay, Black Panther had a brown stain on him. Guess what? Next patch, that's off now. White Fox just got a few buffs. Well, DPS players complained about Black Panther's no cooldowns on his jump, so he got 3 more buffs. It goes every way with that, and just to go a little in to the buffs and nerfs. Oh, not all buffs and nerfs are equal, which goes for every role. Like for Loki, for example, he got a 20% nerf to his damage and healing. That's a huge hit. Adam lost his team up and lost 15% healing. That's a huge hit. And Loki has also gotten +2 and then -2 on his primary before he has to reload. These characters have gotten big nerfs and big buffs, small nerfs, and same goes for every role. I could list way more examples, but you know, the video is already going to be pretty long. So getting that all out of the way, pretty much stating all buffs and nerfs, while they aren't equal, equalize out during the entire roster of characters. And while there may be more examples of big nerfs and big buffs as DPS, that's a given because they have more characters. Now, listing the nerfs and buffs, I have done multiple graphs, multiple calculations, and not just on total nerfs and buffs, because I know it would be extremely biased if I just counted all buffs, all nerfs, because of course DPS would have more buffs than the entire roster of characters, and a lot more nerfs. So I'm doing how many buffs to one nerf, since every single role right now is positive. They're stronger than they were before. 2 differing amounts that I'll explain a bit later, but that's what I'm basing it on. For some of them, I will list the total nerfs and buffs, but then I will use those numbers for character by character cases. And the statistics I'm going to show and explain, I'm putting 4 categories and explaining 4 categories across the board. First one being tank, second one being DPS, third one being support, and fourth one being dive. Now you might ask, well, what do you classify as dive? Well, I try to be the least biased I could, and I didn't include, let's say, Iron Fist as a dive because he can also be used as brawl a lot of the time. So I'm using the most globally agreed upon dive characters for the dive category, which is Black Panther, Psylocke, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Magic, Venom, and Captain America. I don't think anyone will have problems with me choosing those 7 characters. I could have added more, but then people would probably complain that those aren't dive characters, so I didn't add them. Now, getting into the stats, I will say I'm not going to list every single buff and nerf per season per character. I will list every single buff and nerf per role and category, but first I will list per character how many total nerfs and buffs they have overall across the whole seasons. Across all of the seasons, up to when White Fox got her buffs. This is recorded at 10:26 p.m. on March 26th. That's the timestamp you guys will get right now. So, if this comes out and there's another emergency patch notes, it's not included in this one. I waited a little bit because I thought there'd be another patch notes. And I will be counting buffs and nerfs in total, with and without counting the team up buffs and nerfs. Now, let's get straight into the numbers. I've talked way too long. Angela has gotten 11 buffs and 4 nerfs overall, but not counting team ups, she's gotten 10 buffs and 4 nerfs. Captain America, he's gotten 19 buffs and 8 nerfs, but only 17 buffs and 6 nerfs without team ups. Doctor Strange, 10 buffs, 9 nerfs, but without team ups, 8 buffs, 9 nerfs. Emma Frost, 12 buffs, 10 nerfs, 11 buffs, 9 nerfs without team ups. Groot, 5 buffs, 3 nerfs, 4 buffs, 3 nerfs without team ups. Hulk, 11 buffs, 2 nerfs, 11 buffs, 1 nerf without team ups. Magneto, 9 buffs, 9 nerfs, 5 buffs, 1 nerf without team ups. Penny Parker, 12 buffs, 4 nerfs, 8 buffs, 2 nerfs without team ups. Rogue, 3 buffs, 0 nerfs, but 2 buffs, 0 nerfs without team ups. Tank Pool, 1 buff, 3 nerfs, 0 buffs, 3 nerfs without team ups. The Thing, 10 buffs, 8 nerfs, 9 buffs, 6 nerfs without team ups. Thor, 16 buffs, 9 nerfs, 15 buffs, 7 nerfs without team-ups. And finally, Venom in the tank role, 10 buffs, 1 nerf, 9 buffs, 0 nerfs without team-ups. Now for Duelist, Black Panther, 8 buffs, 7 nerfs, but 6 buffs, 5 nerfs without team-ups. Yes, he is positive. He didn't get nerfed to the ground like everyone's saying. Black Widow, 9 buffs, 2 nerfs, 8 buffs, 0 nerfs without team-ups. Blade, 18 buffs, 5 nerfs, 16 buffs, 4 nerfs without team-ups. Daredevil, 1 buff, 7 nerfs, 0 buffs, 6 nerfs without team-ups. DPS pool, 3 buffs, 2 nerfs, 2 buffs, 2 nerfs without team-ups. Elsa, 1 buff, 6 nerfs, 0 buffs, 6 nerfs without team-ups. Hawkeye, 17 buffs, 15 nerfs, 15 buffs, 9 nerfs without team-ups. Hela, 6 buffs, 6 nerfs, 5 buffs, 5 nerfs without team-ups. Human Torch, 12 buffs, 20 nerfs, 11 buffs, 16 nerfs without team-ups. Iron Fist, 21 buffs, 15 nerfs, 18 buffs, 14 nerfs without team-ups. Iron Man, 11 buffs, 12 nerfs, 11 buffs, 11 nerfs without team-ups. Magic, 13 buffs, 5 nerfs, 12 buffs, 4 nerfs without team-ups. Mr. Fantastic, 13 buffs, 10 nerfs, 12 buffs, 8 nerfs without team-ups. Moon Knight, 13 buffs, 3 nerfs, 11 buffs, 2 nerfs without team-ups. Namor, 15 buffs, 8 nerfs, 8 buffs, 2 nerfs without team-ups. Phoenix, 3 buffs, 4 nerfs, 2 buffs, 4 nerfs without team-ups. Psylocke, 7 buffs, 8 nerfs, 6 buffs, 5 nerfs without team-ups. Punisher, 15 buffs, 3 nerfs, 12 buffs, 2 nerfs without team-ups. Scarlet Witch, 19 buffs, 7 nerfs, 19 buffs, 6 nerfs without team-ups. Spider-Man, 11 buffs, 3 nerfs, 7 buffs, 2 nerfs without team-ups. Star-Lord, 7 buffs, 5 nerfs, 6 buffs, 3 nerfs without team-ups. Storm, 15 buffs, 9 nerfs, 14 buffs, 5 nerfs without team-ups. Squirrel Girl, 10 buffs, 4 nerfs, 9 buffs, 3 nerfs without team-ups. Winter Soldier, 8 buffs, 7 nerfs, 6 buffs, 5 nerfs without team-ups. Finally, Wolverine in the DPS category, 11 buffs, 12 nerfs, 10 buffs, 11 nerfs without any team-ups. Now finally onto strategists. Adam Warlock, 13 buffs, 4 nerfs, 12 buffs, 1 nerf without team-ups. Cloak and Dagger, 14 buffs, 7 nerfs, 14 buffs, 6 nerfs without team-ups. Gambit, 2 buffs, 9 nerfs, 1 buff, 9 nerfs without team-ups. Heal Pool, 1 buff, 2 nerfs, 0 buffs, 2 nerfs without team-ups. Invisible Woman, 11 buffs, 14 nerfs, 10 buffs, 12 nerfs without team-ups. Jeff the Landshark, 13 buffs, 10 nerfs, 8 buffs, 7 nerfs. Loki, 4 buffs, 11 nerfs, 3 buffs, 11 nerfs without team-ups. Luna Snow, 13 buffs, 6 nerfs, 10 buffs, 4 nerfs without team-ups. Mantis, 6 buffs, 9 nerfs, 6 buffs, 7 nerfs without team-ups. Rocket Raccoon, 11 buffs, 11 nerfs, 11 buffs, 7 nerfs without team-ups. Ultron, 7 buffs, 8 nerfs, 6 buffs, 8 nerfs without team-ups. White Fox, 3 buffs, 3 nerfs. Now, I'm going to use all the data I just explained to you, putting those into graphs, putting them in categories to better explain my idea and thought process and the statistics it shows. So, going by season, for season 1, tanks had 12 buffs, 3 nerfs, for 4 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, it's 8 buffs, 3 nerfs, and a 2.66 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS had 25 buffs, 11 nerfs, with a 2.27 buffs per 1 nerf. Then without team-ups, it's 22 buffs and 10 nerfs, with a 2.2 buffs per 1 nerf. For support, 4 buffs, 5 nerfs, for a 0.8 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, it's 4 buffs, 3 nerfs, for a 1.33 buffs per 1 nerf. And for Dive, which is the characters that I explained at the very beginning, 15 buffs, 3 nerfs, 5 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 11 buffs per 3 nerfs, with a 3.66 buffs per 1 nerf. Season 1.5, tanks had 20 buffs, 3 nerfs, with a 6.66 repeating buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 17 buffs, 2 nerfs, with an 8.5 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 38 buffs, 25 nerfs with a 1.52 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 33 buffs, 22 nerfs with a 1.5 buff per 1 nerf. With support, that's 10 buffs, 6 nerfs with a 1.66 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 10 buffs, 6 nerfs with a 1.66 per 1 nerf. Dive, 23 buffs, 3 nerfs, which is 7.66 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 22 buffs, 2 nerfs, which equals 11 buffs per 1 nerf. Going into Season 2, tanks, 14 buffs, 11 nerfs with a 1.27 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 10 buffs, 7 nerfs, 1.42 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 41 buffs, 25 nerfs, 1.64 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, it's 36 buffs, 20 nerfs, 1.8 buffs per 1 nerf. For supports, 12 buffs, 9 nerfs, 1.33 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 12 buffs, 9 nerfs with 1.33 buffs per 1 nerf. For dive, 7 buffs, 8 nerfs for 0.875 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 2 buffs, 6 nerfs with a 0.33 buffs per 1 nerf. Season 2.5, tank, 10 buffs, 19 nerfs with a 0.52 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 7 buffs, 16 nerfs with a 0.43 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, that's 25 buffs, 30 nerfs for 0.83 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 17 buffs, 19 nerfs with 0.89 buffs per 1 nerf. For support, 14 buffs, 11 nerfs for a 1.27 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 8 buffs, 8 nerfs for a 1 buff per 1 nerf ratio. For dive, 2 buffs, 11 nerfs, 0.18 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, it's 0 buffs, 9 nerfs for a 0 buffs per 1 nerf average. Season 3, tank, 6 buffs, 3 nerfs, 2 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 6 buffs, 3 nerfs, that's 2 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 15 buffs, 21 nerfs for a 0.71 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 10 buffs, 14 nerfs for a 0.71 buffs per 1 nerf. For support, that's 6 buffs, 12 nerfs for a 0.5 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 4 buffs, 7 nerfs for a 0.57 buffs per 1 nerf. For dive, 5 buffs, 1 nerf, 5 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 3 buffs, 0 nerfs. Season 3.5, tank, 7 buffs, 1 nerf, 7 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 6 buffs, 1 nerf, so 6 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 6 buffs, 5 nerfs, 1.6 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 5 buffs, 3 nerfs, 1.6 repeating buffs per 1 nerf. Support, 7 buffs, 7 nerfs, 1 buff per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, it's 6 buffs, 3 nerfs for 2 buffs per 1 nerf. Dive, 2 buffs, 1 nerf, 2 buffs per 1 nerf. And then without team-ups, it's 1 buff, 1 nerf, so 1 buff per 1 nerf. Season 4, tank, 7 buffs, 4 nerfs for 1.75 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, it's 6 buffs, 2 nerfs, 3 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 16 buffs, 14 nerfs, 1.28 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 16 buffs, 10 nerfs, 1.6 buffs per 1 nerf. Supports, 5 buffs, 9 nerfs for 0.55 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 5 buffs, 9 nerfs, 0.55 buffs per 1 nerf. For dive, 10 buffs, 9 nerfs, 1.11 repeating buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 8 buffs, 3 nerfs for 2.66 buffs per 1 nerf. Season 4.5, tanks, 4 buffs, 0 nerfs. Without team-ups, 3 buffs, 0 nerfs. DPS, 13 buffs, 5 nerfs for 2.6 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 11 buffs, 3 nerfs for 3.66 buffs per 1 nerf. Support, 1 buff, 2 nerfs for 0.5 buffs per 1 nerf, and then without team-ups, that's 1 buff, 2 nerfs for 0.5 buffs per 1 nerf again. For dive, 2 buffs, 0 nerfs. Without team-ups, 2 buffs, 0 nerfs. Season 5, tank, 14 buffs, 7 nerfs, 2 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, it's 13 buffs, 6 nerfs, and 2.16 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 17 buffs, 4 nerfs, or 4.25 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 12 buffs, 0 nerfs. Support, 15 buffs, 1 nerf, 15 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 14 buffs, 0 nerfs. For dive, 4 buffs, 0 nerfs. Without team-ups, 4 buffs, 0 nerfs. Season 5.5, tank, 6 buffs, 2 nerfs, 3 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 4 buffs, 1 nerf, so 4 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 12 buffs, 5 nerfs, 2.4 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 11 buffs, 5 nerfs, 2.4 buffs per 1 nerf. Support, 9 buffs, 6 nerfs, 1.5 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 9 buffs, 6 nerfs, 1.5 buffs per 1 nerf. Dive, 1 buff, 2 nerfs, 0.5 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 0 buffs, 1 nerf, so 0 buffs per 1 nerf. Season 6, almost getting there. Tank, 11 buffs, 2 nerfs, 5.5 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 9 buffs, 1 nerf, which equals 9 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 13 buffs, 10 nerfs, 1.3 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 11 buffs, 7 nerfs, 1.57 buffs per 1 nerf. Support, 4 buffs, 9 nerfs, 0.44 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 2 buffs, 9 nerfs, 0.22 buffs per 1 nerf. Dive, 5 buffs, 3 nerfs, 1.66 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 4 buffs, 3 nerfs, 1.33 buffs per 1 nerf. Season 6.5, Tank, 7 buffs, 3 nerfs, 2.3 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 5 buffs, 2 nerfs, for 2.5 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 12 buffs, 14 nerfs, 0.85 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 10 buffs, 11 nerfs, for 0.9 buffs per 1 nerf. Support, 6 buffs, 6 nerfs, 1 buff per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 5 buffs, 5 nerfs, 1 buff per 1 nerf. Dive, 4 buffs, 1 nerf, so 4 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 3 buffs, 1 nerf, which equal 3 buffs per 1 nerf. Now, to Season 7, the current season, which has a lot of talk about it. Tank, 19 buffs, 11 nerfs, for 1.7272 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 18 buffs, 12 nerfs, 1.5 buffs per 1 nerf. DPS, 22 buffs, 12 nerfs, 1.83 repeating buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 22 buffs, 12 nerfs, 1.83 repeating buffs per 1 nerf. Support, 7 buffs, 12 nerfs, 0.583 repeating buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, 5 buffs, 10 nerfs, for 0.5 buffs per 1 nerf. For Dive, 13 buffs, 5 nerfs, 2.6 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, that's 12 buffs, 5 nerfs, so 2.4 buffs per 1 nerf. And that is everything per season. Now, for each category, you know how many total buffs and nerfs and per 1 nerf each of all the categories and all the numbers. Now, putting them into the graphs now. For total in all seasons, Tank has 130 buffs to 70 nerfs, which as you can see on this graph, it's 1.857 buffs per 1 nerf. Without team-ups, then DPS, it's 286 buffs to 214 nerfs, which equals 1.336 buffs per 1 nerf. For support, 98 buffs, 93 nerfs, for 1.053 buffs per 1 nerf, so barely above 1 nerf. And then Dive, 69 buffs, 39 nerfs, for 1.769 buffs per 1 nerf. As you can see by the numbers, support heavily gets a lot more nerfs compared to buffs per character compared to any other role. The closest one to support is DPS, as you can see, and then Tank is number 1, receiving the most amount of buffs per nerf, and then Dive is right behind. I mean, less than 0.1 buff away from being the most heavily buffed role per character. Now, going to without team-ups, which I know a lot of people will be looking at and kind of skew towards that compared to counting team-ups. I don't think I've ever seen anyone count team-ups before. So without team-ups, Tank, and here's the new graph, 110 buffs, 51 nerfs, for 2.1568 buffs per 1 nerf. For DPS, 248 buffs to 188 nerfs, for 1.319 buffs per 1 nerf. For supports, 84 buffs, 76 nerfs, for 1.1 buffs per 1 nerf. And finally for Dive, 57 buffs, 28 nerfs, for 2.0357 buffs per 1 nerf. And as you can see, it's pretty much the same. DPS kind of went down a little, support went up a little, Dive went up by 0.3, and same did Tank without counting team-ups. So the graph shows that, again, supports receive a lot more nerfs than buffs compared to per character per the other categories. And now here are the graphs with team-ups right here per season, which I explained earlier. As you can see, both DPS and support start off low, with Tank and Dive being very high. Every single role kind of dipped around 2.5, except if you look, support keeps going around below 2 to around 0. Then the giant spike in 5, and then went right back down. That's when Invis got all of her buffs and everything. And you can see everything fluctuates, and I explained why earlier. Now here's without team-ups. As you can see, I mean, the jump with Tank and Dive at the beginning is huge, around 1.5. They do dip off again, but then you can see Dive fluctuates a bit. Support is consistently one of the lowest until they spike again in season 5 like they did before, but this time without counting team ups, DPS is right behind them at 12, while support's at 14. Keep in mind, this is buff to nerf ratio per character per season. And then now in season 7, everything's really equalized and they've been closer to each other than they've pretty much ever been as of recently. With Dive, again, receiving a lot more buffs per nerf than the other roles. Then it's DPS, then tank, then support. Now, here's another graph. It says total increase in power, buffs minus nerfs, season by season, which can be downscaled per character. Meaning, I took the amount of buffs, took the amount of nerfs, minused them together, and whatever remained, I either minused or added on to the previous season. That makes sense. Starting with the first graph, let's go to tank. First season, 9 buffs. Next season, 28 total. Next season, 31. Then took a dip at 22, then 25, then 31, then 34, 38, 45, 49, 58, 62, and then ended on 70. For DPS, started off at 14 buffs, then 27, then 43, then 38, took a little bit of a dip as well during 2.5, then 32, 35, 38, 47, 60. 67, 70, 68, and ended on 78. For support, they started off on -1, then 3, then 6, then 9, then 3, then 3, then -1, then -2, then 12, 15, 10, 10, and then ended on +5. Then for Dive, because I know a lot of people say, Dive is dead, oh, it's always been nerfed, supports only get buffs. Okay. Started off with 12 buffs. 32 buffs, 31, 22, 26, 27, 28, 30, 34, 33, 35, 38, and ended on 46 buffs. As you can see, supports with team ups have dipped into the negatives at certain points before they got all of those buffs. Now, with the graph that doesn't count team ups, tanks start off at 5, then 20, 23, got a hit at 2.5 with 14, then 17, then 22, 26, 29, 36, 39, 47, 50, and then finally ended on 56. For DPS, they start off with 12 buffs, 23, 39, 37, 33, 35, 41, 49, 61, 67, 71, 70, and ended on right now 80 buffs. For support, their positive 1 buff start off on, then 5, then 8, then 8, then 5, then 8, then 5 again, then 4, then 18, then 15, 8, 8, and then ended on +3. For Dive, start off with 8 buffs, then 28, 24, 15, 18, 18, 23, 25, 29, 28, 29, 31, and ended on 38 positive buffs. And as you can see, with team ups, you know, the top 3 are kind of close together with tank and DPS, and Dive right behind. And then without team ups, you can see DPS definitely takes over a lead. Tank is right behind though, and then Dive is not that far away, and support you can see is hovering around 0 again, and only getting +3 without team ups and 5 with team ups. So, for a total of, just to put the numbers more simply, tank net positive is 70 buffs, DPS net positive is 78 buffs, support net positive is 5 buffs, dive net positive is 46 buffs. Now, without team ups, that equals for tank net positive 56 buffs, DPS net positive 80 buffs, support net positive 3 buffs, dive net positive 38 buffs. Now with team ups, total buffs per character accounting for buff minus nerf ratio, which we just discussed, that equals tank with team ups 70 buffs for 13 characters, 5.38 buffs per character, DPS 78 buffs for 25 characters, for 3.12 buffs per character, support 5 buffs, 12 nerfs for 0.416 repeating buffs per character, and then dive 46 buffs, 7 characters for 6.57 buffs per character. And as you can see, dive has way more buffs per character than any other role. And if you're curious at all between dive and support buffs per character counting team ups, dives receive 15.79 times as many buffs per character, and as a percent, if my calculations are correct, 1,479% more buffs than what supports do. Yeah, I know a lot of people won't agree with that. Now, without team ups, again, total buffs per character accounting for the buff nerf ratio, tank has 56 buffs, 13 characters for 4.3 buffs per character, DPS 80 buffs, 25 characters, 3.2 buffs per character, support 3 buffs, 12 characters for 0.33 buffs per character, dive 38 buffs, 7 characters for 5.43 buffs per character, and if you want to do the calculations again, dive has received 16.45 times as many buffs as supports have. If you put that into a percent, that's 1,545% more buffs in total without team ups compared to support. And that's all the stats right now. That's all the statistics. I listed them all out for you, just purely on the nerfs and buff ratio. And I know people will still complain about it. Oh, supports never get nerfed. But I just explained in depth per season, per character, per role, per category, how that's just statistically untrue, and how even if you make the argument all buffs and nerfs aren't equal, same goes for every role, and if anything, supports have been gutted the most. Not only has it shown in how many buffs per nerfs they've gotten per season, per total, per everything, per without team ups, per with team ups, but no character on the DPS side has been gutted, like a 20% nerf to damage and healing like Loki, a 15% nerf to healing with Adam. Supports have probably gotten the most nothing burger of buffs and nerfs as well. Keep on the Loki line, +2 and -2 to his primary. Makes little to no difference. And even then, some characters like Deadpool share a common nerfs throughout every role. Like the nerf to his ult, doing it from 45 seconds to 60 seconds, and now recently they nerfed and added a jump timer on enemies to 0.5, which won't affect many people, they said, but still, some nerfs and buffs are also shared throughout the roles. There are certain seasons which every role took a hit. There are also several seasons where support's power level went down while everyone else went up. Now, to the ult charge difference of 20% nerf, I will put it right here and I'll explain this. I'm going to discuss how even the ult charge changes affects supports negatively. And I'll say this beforehand before saying the stats. And while yes, supports do get a 5% more ult charge per damage compared to tank and DPS, they also lose 3 ult charges a second from the passive ultimate ability energy regeneration rate compared to tanks and DPS, meaning it's about balanced out. So let's do this. I will list out the total cost for ultimates and adding on to a 20% because they put a 20% nerf to all of them, meaning it costs 20% more to use. For example, Angel is 3,100 charge, but taking that 20% nerf and adding on a top of it again, that's a plus 620 to the ult charge. That's how much it feels like, because that 20% flat nerf. Now, if you understand that, let's continue. Captain America, 3,100, another 620 increase. Doctor Strange, same thing, 3,100 plus 620. Emma, 3,400 plus 680. Groot, 2,800 plus 560. Hulk, 3,400 plus 680. Mag, 3,400 plus 680. Penny, 3,400 plus 680. Rogue, 3,400 plus 680. Deadpool, I mean, it's really difficult to measure that, but you know, he still gains it the same amount. This is longer timer. And I'll just skip over DPS pool and heal pool. These are the exact same thing. 2,800 plus 560. Thor, 3,100 plus 620. Venom, 2,500 plus 500. BP, 3,300 plus 660. Widow, 2,800 plus 560. Blade, 2,800 plus 560. Daredevil, 3,400 plus 680. Elsa, 3,400 plus 680. Hawkeye, 3,100 plus 620. Hela, 4,000 plus 800. Human Torch, 3,400 plus 680. Iron Fist, 3,400 plus 680. Iron Man, 3,400 plus 680. Magic, 3,400 plus 680. Mr. Fantastic, 3,400 plus 680. Moon Knight, 2,800 plus 560. Namor, 3,100 plus 620. Phoenix, 3,100 plus 620. Psylocke, 3,400 plus 680. Punisher, 3,400 plus 680. Scarlet Witch, 3,400 plus 680. Spider-Man, 2,800 plus 560. Star-Lord, 3,100 plus 620. Storm, 3,400 plus 680. Squirrel Girl, 2,800 plus 560. Bucky, 3,100 plus 620. Wolverine, 2,800 plus 560. Adam, 4,500 plus 900. Cloak and Dagger, 4,500 plus 900. Gambit, 4,500 plus 900, Invis 4,500 plus 900, Jeff 4,500 plus 900, Loki 4,300 plus 860, Luna 5,000 plus 1,000, Mantis 4,300 plus 860, Rocket 4,300 860, and finally Ultron with 4,000 ult charge and plus 800 charge feel. Now here's the graph. Tank average ult cost and total was a 7,500 increase to ult charge and about 576.92 ult increase per character. For DPS average ult charge, that's a 15,400 increase in total with a 616 ult increase per character. For support average ult changes, 8,880 increase in total with a 740 ult increase per character. And for dive, that's 4,380 increase in total for a 625.71 increase per character. And as you can see on the graph, support by far has gotten the biggest increase in their ults, with tank the least, then DPS, then dive hovering right around where DPS is. I mean, dive is 625.71 and DPS is 616. So as you can see, even doing the ult charges, you can see and deduce support is not being pandered to. Especially, I mean, let me repeat several times, especially in terms of not just ult charges, but especially, let me repeat again, in the statistics and the numbers of buffs and nerfs. I went through this with a friend, looked through every single balance patch notes. From season 0, from now to season 7, every mid-range balance patch notes. We made pretty much one page of every character. For characters, we did how many buffs and nerfs they got per season, per half season, per everything. If there was a change, we added it. We did the exact same per season, every single role. If there's changes, I have to change every single graph I show. If I make one mistake, I need to do every calculation over again. Right now, I have everything correct. I went through the numbers, went through the buffs and nerfs, went through everything. And let me end on this. All these stats show, unequivocally, without a doubt, support is the least benefited from nerfs. Support is the least benefited from buffs, receiving a vast amount of more nerfs per buff compared to any other role. Dive is actually, and I'll show it again right here, the biggest group of people in the game who benefits from buffs the most. Supports in total from season 0 have a net positive, counting team ups, of 5 buffs and not counting team ups of 3 buffs. So I never want to hear again the supports only ever get buffs when they have a net 3 buffs and we're in 7 seasons already. Supports were at their weakest point in 4.5 before they got their buffs, which made Invis hard meta. After that, it's downward spiral again and again and again, where right now, they're lower in terms of positive buffs than they've ever been until season 1. Without team-ups, I mean. That's where everyone looks, right? They don't count buffs and nerfs to team-ups. But I get nobody wants to look through the numbers because it'll hurt their argument. I did this knowing it may hurt my argument, but guess what? It didn't. I went in, did the numbers, was gonna be humbled if I was wrong, but turns out I was right. I did my own numbers, did my own research. A lot of people won't. And the last thing I'll say on this video, it's getting very long, and I'll say this very bluntly. If you say supports only ever get buffs, you are ignorant. If you say dives only get nerfed, you're ignorant. If you say supports are pandered to, you're ignorant. If you say dives are dead, dives are nerfed to the ground, you are ignorant. Now, if you like this video, like, subscribe, it would mean a lot, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.